There are many places around the world where one can find mysterious geoglyphs, but one of the most famous collections is found in the deserts of Peru, especially around the Nazca lines. These are huge designs etched into the arid landscape, some of which have been here since before the time of Christ. We've talked about these quite a bit before, but what we're going to talk about today is something that is lesser known, even though it is quite close by. This is the Atacama Giant. How's it going, guys? I'm here to answer the question, who let the dogs out? With a video covering everything from archaeological oddities to strange occurrences in the animal world and beyond. Viewer-suggested topics always welcome in the comments. And if you like what I do, maybe consider supporting me, especially if you like my work covering the mysterious giant humanoid statues scattered throughout the jungles of Indonesia. Anyway, today we're heading down south, so much so that we're nearly reaching Antarctica. This is the driest place on Earth. That's why all of these lines have survived here for so long. The sands of time have done little to obscure them. If you look closely at this satellite image, you might be able to make out a human figure. He appears to be made up of a series of lines running north to south along the ridge of a hill. He also appears to be wearing a conical hat or headdress of some kind. He's also huge. If you were to stretch his legs out, they would be over 180 feet long. His body is another 90 feet. And this brings us to our first big mystery, which is just how big he is supposed to be. Some say that this geoglyph is over 300 feet tall. Others claim he's closer to 400. Either way, that's pretty darn huge. This discovery was only made in 2014, after Google Earth allowed armchair archaeologists everywhere to zoom in and take a good look at this bizarre design. No one knows who made it, when it was made, or why. It's quite close to the Maria and the Pumapunku ruins, but there's no telling if those two are related. The nearest major city is Calama, which has a population of over 200,000 people. It's a mining town that sits at an elevation of over 7,000 feet. That's pretty high up. As such, it's very unlikely that this was made by anyone living there now. For comparison, the height of the pyramids of Giza combined is only about 350 feet. It was originally dated back to between 800 and 1400 AD, so almost 1,000 years ago. However, more recent estimates suggest it could have been made 2,000 years ago or even longer than that. A few of the lines making up the Atacama Giant have been eroded away by the harsh winds and relentless sun of the Altiplano Desert. Some of the lines are 20 feet wide, which means that whoever created this used a lot of manpower and a lot of time. It took hours upon hours of hard work to make this thing. But who did it, and why are the biggest questions of all? We know that the Inca built a lot of things like this, but that culture peaked around the year 1400. They were gone by then. There were also earlier cultures living here, the Chinchorro and the Atacameño, but they left nothing else behind that resembles anything modern humans would do. There are some stone hinges, lots of pottery, and a smattering of petroglyphs. However, none of these match what we see with the Atacama Giant. Maybe it's best that we start here, because this is the only other image that looks anything like the giant. This carving is found on a rock monolith near the giant. It's not actually part of him. It's 7 miles away and much smaller, just 6 feet tall. This may be one of the creators, though. Who else would sit on a random rock in the middle of nowhere and draw a picture of someone just like them? Is this a stylized version of the giant himself? Why? What does it mean? There are 36 lines running up his body. That number doesn't seem significant at all, but it could be a mistake. If we divide 360 degrees by 36 lines, we get 10 degrees. That's interesting because there are 10 months in a year. Of course, we know the Inca kept track of time with their calendar. They had a solar calendar and a lunar calendar. It wasn't until the Spanish arrived that the Inca learned how to keep track of both at the same time. Maybe this is some sort of huge clock, be a logical explanation, but unfortunately, we don't really know what the Inca believed. They never wrote down any myths or stories or creation narratives. Everything we know comes from secondhand sources like the Spanish who conquered them. That said, we do know that the Inca considered themselves children of the sun. They also worshipped a creator deity who emerged from a lake in the mountains. It seems likely that any calendar system they had would have had some connection to water. When we look at the giant, we see that he's got what could possibly be interpreted as wavy lines coming off of him. Are these raindrops or rays of sunlight? Is he the sun god? Is he the creator deity? Maybe. There are also 13 lines coming off of his head, too. There are 13 levels to the sky, according to Inca mythology. This hat or headdress could represent the heavens. If that's true, then we have a sky god with a calendar on his body and a depiction of himself nearby. But that still doesn't tell us anything about the purpose. He could be watching over the land, blessing it with rain, or perhaps keeping watch over the entire universe. Here's the thing. We have no idea how old this thing is. It could have been made hundreds of years ago or thousands. Maybe it predates the Incas by several millennia. And what's with the size? Why would anyone go through all the effort of creating a gigantic man in the desert unless he was some sort of god? And that's not even the weirdest part. The Nazca lines are mostly animals, plants, and geometric shapes. There are a few human figures, but they're tiny compared to the Atacama giant. Here we have one of the biggest concentrations of lines showing human forms, and they're pointing towards the giant. Are they marching towards him? Are they greeting him? Are they paying homage to him? If you zoom out, you can see that there are also lines leading away from the giant. They spread out across the desert like spider webs. Is he the center of the universe? Is this all somehow connected to the other lines found in southern Peru? The Nazca lines are pretty well documented, but this is all much less certain. When we look at this area, we see a series of animal figures, including a monkey, a lizard, a bird, and what appears to be a humanoid holding a spear. Beyond that, it's unclear what it all means. Some say it's just a collection of random drawings, but that's probably just because they haven't realized the connection yet. This is obviously meant to be a map. The lines are spaced evenly and lead to the same place. They converge at a single point in the sky. The stars must align there every year during the winter solstice. And if you look closely at the top of the giant's head, you can see that there's a hole in the lines. The sky is visible underneath his hat. That's right. Not only is this a calendar, but it's also a star map. The Inca knew more about the cosmos than we thought. And if this is a celestial clock, then the center of the face would mark the center of the universe. So what do you think it means? Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching. Now check out this video about a horrifying creature found trapped in a well, or this one about a creepy monster caught on camera. Hey, don't forget to support me if you want to see more content. And as always, thanks for watching. See ya.